let's create two pickups for our game. First, a star, which is going to give you bonus points, and secondly, a shield, which is going to make you invincible from crashing into the other cars. So star equals a sprite. We will paste in the file location, and then we're going to start it. Let's start it around the center of the screen at a random position between 2000 and 5000 pixels off the top of the screen. And the shield we will also create as a sprite, but it was pickup. Shield was the name of the file. We'll also create it 280 pixels across, but this time we'll make it somewhere between 5000 and 10,000 pixels off the top of the screen. So how did I decide on the heights for our star and our shield? Well, I looked at the way our enemy cars operated. Now, our enemy cars come down and pretend this is our canvas. They come onto the canvas. When they go off the bottom, we respawn them at 1050 pixels high, and they come back down again onto the canvas, back off the bottom, and respawn. Now, I wanted our stars to respawn a lot less often than that, so they had to respawn at a higher height. So I've got the star respawning between 2000 and 5000 pixels, and the shield, which I want to be even rarer, respawns from somewhere between 5000 and 10,000 pixels. Now, if we want to test these, it's going to take a while for them to come down the screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy both of these lines and paste them below, and then I'm going to comment out these, which I can do with Command/. That will comment both of those lines once I've got them highlighted. And then now I'm going to update these. Okay, let's start that one at 500, and yeah, this one just off the top of the screen. So when I'm testing, I'm just going to start them and they'll come down, I'll be able to see them. Then afterwards, I'll bring back these bits of code. So commenting them out is a way just to protect this line of code so I can bring it back later when I've done my testing. So now we need to draw these pickups. And I'm going to draw them before I draw any of the cars so that if there is any overlaps, the pickups will go underneath them. So I'm going to say draw pickups as a comment, and then we just do star.draw and shield.draw. Okay, now let's get them moving. So star.moveBy, and we want to move it 0 left or right, and it's going to go along at the road speed. And same with the shield, shield.moveBy 0, road speed. And now if they go off the bottom of the screen, I want to respawn them as well. So if star.y is less than minus star.height, that means it's gone off the bottom of the screen. So star.move2, and now we want to move it to a random integer between 0 and the width of the screen minus the width of the star itself. And for the Y position, we want a random integer, as we talked about, between 2000 and 5000. Great. And the shield's going to be very similar code if that goes off the bottom of the screen. So I'm going to copy this here, paste it in, and just update this to be shield. Update all the occurrences of star to be shield, and the only difference is here I want to move it somewhere between 5000 and 10,000. All right, let's test that. Now they came down much faster than I expected. They're going much faster than the cars. Do I want them going the road speed, or do I want them going the speed of the enemy cars? Let's take a look. I actually think I want these going the speed of the enemy car speed. Let's try that. And I think that might look better for our game. Yeah, I think that looks better for our game, but I can't see this shield because it's hidden behind the car. So let's draw it at 180 for our testing. So yeah, I think that looks good now. And now we just need to implement the collision detection. So here we have our collision detection comment. So I'm just going to say if the car dot overlaps the star, then let's award some bonus points. So we could say score equals score plus a random integer between 1 and 3. So you get between 1 and 3 points when you overlap the star. And then, of course, we also need to respawn the star. So I'm going to copy this line of code and use it again. So if we overlap the star, increase the score, and respawn the star. Let's check that works. Great, and I got 3 points then. Awesome. And here comes the star again, and 1 point that time. So with the shield, we need some extra logic. First, we need a way to know if we have the shield. So let's create a variable and set that to false. And when we collect it, we'll set it to true. And then let's have a variable which I'm going to set as a constant. So I'm going to indicate that by being all capitals. And let's call it shield frames. And that can be 600. And then let's say shield counter. So we're going to count how long we have the shield for. We'll set that to 0 to start with. And we'll count up until we get to shield frames or 600. So then down here we can check if the car overlaps the shield. If that's true, then we can say have shield equals true. We can reset the shield counter back to 0. So if I have the shield, I want to check the timer and display how much time is left when I am protected. And if I don't have the shield, then I want to perform the collision detection. So only perform that if I don't have the shield. And also, if I don't have the shield, let's move the shield down the screen. Okay, so to recap, if the car overlaps the shield, we'll say we have the shield and we'll set the shield counter equal to 0. And then through each of these loops, we can say if have shield, and if that's true, we want to display the time left, and I'm going to do this by showing a little rectangle. So the time left will equal the shield frames, which we've set to 600, minus the shield counter. And we'll also have to increment the shield counter. So shield counter equals shield counter plus 1. Then if time left is less than or equal to 0, then we say have shield equals false. What I want to do now is if we don't have the shield, then we are going to check if we're overlapping any of the enemy cars. So this now only happens if we don't have the shield. We're only checking if we're crashing if we don't have the shield. Great, I think that should work. But I need to actually display the time left. Let's do that here. So I'm going to firstly set the stroke to be white. I'm going to say no fill. And then I'm going to draw a rectangle that goes from, let's say, from 200 pixels across. Let's make it 20 pixels up. We'll make it 200 pixels wide. And let's make it 20 pixels high. And then what I want to do is set the fill color to be green, which is red, green, and blue. And then we can draw a rectangle that starts 200 pixels across 20, the same as our other one. But now this one should be the shield counter divided by shield frames, so what percentage we are through, times the width of the rectangle we're showing, which is 200, and it is 20 pixels high. All right, let's have a look. So we grab the shield, and then there's our box, and it's filling up. And see, now I can crash into the cars and nothing happens. But once that finishes, then I crash and I die. Awesome. But I've got the rectangle going the wrong way. I want it to actually show fully green and count downwards. So let's fix that. So what I should use here is actually the time left. divided by shield frames. Because we've got 600 divided by 600, that's going to be 1. And as this goes down, 300 is going to be half. So that should now work. Great. But also, when I collect the shield, I should respawn it. So here's the code to respawn it. I'm going to copy that and then paste that in there so the shield will respawn. But also, when I respawn it, because I'm waiting, I don't really want the shield moving down the screen if we have the shield. I don't want to move down the screen when we don't have the shield. So all this shield code, I'm going to cut from here and I'll change this comment to draw star pickup. And I'm only going to draw the shield and move it. I'm only going to draw the shield and move it if we don't currently have the shield. So, like that. Oh, and there's one thing I want to do as well. And so, if we do collect the shield, then I want the car to look different. So I'm going to set the opacity of the car equal to 0.5. And then when we no longer have the shield, so when we set it to false, I'm going to set the car.opacity back to being 1. So let's get the points and collect the shield. And now see the car's opacity, it's gone lighter. So it kind of shows me that I'm in that invisibility mode. Great. And then when it runs out, I'm back to being a full opacity. Awesome. Well, there's another star. Oh, this is actually hard. And now that I've tested my star and shield, I want to set them at the start of the game back to that 2,000 to 5,000 range for the star and 5,000 to 10,000 range for the shield. So let me uncomment these with Command / and then I can delete these where I temporarily set them. So I should finish the video, but there's two things I want to do now. Add sound effects and update the plant. So let's add the sound effects for when we collect the pickups. So star pickup sound, I'll call it, and that is going to be equal to load sound. And from the asset library, I'm going to use the first power up, and then I'm going to call the next variable shield pickup sound, and it's equal to a load sound. And from the asset library, I am going to use power up 2. So that's loaded the sounds. Now I just need to play them when we collect them. So here, if the car overlaps the star, I can say play sound, and we called it star pickup sound. And if the car overlaps the shield, we can play the sound, and it was called shield pickup sound. And I want to update the plant from being a circle sprite to this image of a plant, which is in the asset library. So where I create the plants, I'm just going to make them a regular sprite. This is the image, and that's going to be the X and Y. I don't need a radius anymore, and I don't need a set color either. And then the right plant is also a sprite. I'm going to use the same image. Keep the X and Y the same, get rid of the radius, and I don't need to set the color. There is also one more change I need, and that is when I'm checking if the plant goes off the bottom of the screen. Instead of having a radius, this now has a height because it's an image, and the same for the right plant. All right, let's check it out. So looking at the plants, I probably need to move them over probably 15 pixels to the left. And then when I respawn them, I need to keep their X position the same. And one last thing, when I reset the game, I need to make sure that my star and shield have been reset to their starting positions. Yes. Oh, new high score, 148.